We would like to make this slightly more interactive and talk a bit more about, I think, what we discussed in the tent about how India is actually ahead of the curve in terms of technology adoption. We saw that Sandeep talked about in that report of AI adoption report, right? You may remember that we saw that companies in India are beating its peers in the world where they have been able to explore AI much faster, and they are even deploying AI. I think 54% of the companies have deployed AI. But I think what's happening is, while that's good, it also shows opportunity for that 54% to go faster, right? So what we would like to do is essentially talk about a few things in the next 45 minutes we have. One is to share with you our journey as IBM, right? I mean, we are very proud of the fact that we are a tech company, we are also a consulting company, and IBM itself is our client zero, right? So whenever we go to our clients, we don't go to experiment, right? I mean, it's more about what we have seen working, we take it to the market and say that it's working for us, it could possibly work for you as well, right? So we'll show you some stories there. Not to bore you with that, but at least to excite you, that which I'm sure you are, that's why you're investing in your time here. But we'll talk about that. And then we'll do some discussion around what are the areas which you think are going to add value and things like that. So we'll have some discussion. And then my colleague Michael, he is going to also show you actually a very quick demo of how we have seen this Gen AI work in a specific area, right? So that's what we have in store over the next 45 minutes or so. Would look to have some good conversation as we go through this, right? How does this work? This one, right? Yeah, okay. Thank you. I need to point there. Sorry, I didn't realize that. So this is our journey as IBM. So a small background to this, right? You may remember IBM started on its journey what we call as setting up GBS. In case you're familiar with that, we ended up setting up our back office operations, so to speak, in around mid-90s, right? And then we accelerated that journey. We have gone on record to say that the entire consolidation of our processes, the back office operations like HR, finance, procurement, and actually there were eight departments we consolidated across the world, and we saved close to around $8 billion worth of cost. It's there, it's out there in the public domain, right? So that got us processes getting consolidated. Then we started doing data fabric, data normalization, standardization, right? And now we are embarking on the journey which we're calling as a digital enterprise, because that I think we heard about in the panels earlier. You need that basic readiness for that to work. And now we are actually really taking this forward. What we have done is there are some 9-12 use cases which we are doubling down on, right? So we are not boiling the ocean. We are getting very, very, very specific in terms of the areas which we are focusing on. And the way we are working on this is, this is our architecture, right? So you'll see, what we are doing is, it's one architecture across the world. So the business architecture is the same, and we are focusing on two support areas, which you see below as information technology and enterprise support. Enterprise support, I think we are in this room for finance, HR, procurement as examples, or IT operations, right? Those are enterprise support, so we are focusing on that. So these are the focus areas where we are working on, and there are 7 workflows, end-to-end workflows, which we are doubling down for a Gen AI-led infusion of transformation and unlocking value, right? Let me just go a bit more deeper. I don't know how this works. Yeah. So this is an example of HR, and some of this will not be able to show you this entirely, but some of this will demo that towards the end of it, where what we have done is we have truly transforming the HR support function which we have, right? So all this started, and it's not only Gen AI, right? Gen AI on its own is a great tool, but it needs to be supported by automation, analytics, to all sync together for it to work. So it started with a simple chatbot, right? In terms of if a person wants to know what the policies are, what is applicable to me, if some like a Q&A, right? I mean, because there are policies which are different across the world. Am I eligible for that, right? So something like that. So we started with that, and over the last few years in the journey which we have undergone, this has now evolved, matured from a chatbot to a true digital assistant. So if you need to apply for leave, you just go to that virtual assistant. It will log in on your behalf into the various subsystems and actually do that work. So let's say if you need to do employee transfer from me to Michael, I simply go there and then I just punch that, transfer this employee to Michael. It will log into a few systems and do it on your behalf, right? Now this is, what is this doing? This, in our opinion, is truly revolutionary, because what it's doing is the entire HR support organization, it's getting more efficient, right? Which means that we don't need as many HR business partners to engage on a day-to-day actions. The employee managers are able to take decisions on their behalf or help them much more better, and the entire support system is becoming far more efficient as we go through. So this is a significant transformation. You see some of our journeys, like 96% of our managers have adopted this. It's not been easy. It had required, journeys, use cases being orchestrated in the right manner, and then the change management working with our HR managers. But our people managers and the adoption rate is so high. If you look at the employee interaction, it's around 9 million. And the absolute number is good, but what is even more fascinating is the growth, right? 66% year-on-year growth in terms of the engagements which we are having with that virtual assistant. And it's, of course, driven by the efficiency of the assistant, at the same time, the change management and adoption, right? That's one. Then if you go to the other side, which is focusing on the supply chain side of it, right? Again, you may be aware that IBM is a tech company, of course. So besides the software, we also do a lot of work in hardware, machines. We do make some of that, right? So we are also a fairly large supply chain, organization on our own way. So if you look at, again, we have deployed, some, and again, the point which I think Sandeep was talking about in the tent earlier, this has to be based on use case by use case and the persona by persona, right? So we have looked at the commodity managers, the demand and supply planners, look at what exactly will help them be more impactful and efficient in the marketplace in their own roles. So we have come out with some of these solutions which are workflows, which are powered, sprinkled with automation, analytics, and Gen AI. And you'll see, some of the proof points. So all of these donuts are talking about percentage of activities which are manual, which are automated, which are AI augmented, right? So the point which we are doing. And we expect, the percentage to move to the right as we go forward. But there's a reasonable amount of success which you're seeing, like 95% reduced time, which is there to look at the supply chain responses, right? I'll talk very quickly on the finance, and then I'll open it up for conversation. Now, this is classical source to pay. Every company has procurement operations, has invoices being received from the vendors, and you need to have a great turnaround time and an error-free, cycles there. And this is where, every company is spending almost like 70-80% of its costs, right? So this is where the biggest control postures are, and if you can make it much more efficient, ensure the experience is even better for the users, I think it's a great story. So again, here looking at the buyer, and then looking at our requesters. So we have deployed buy at IBM, right? Which has helped in buyer-less experience, right? So that's what we are propagating within the company. So if you see, 85% of our spending is through buy at IBM, right? Which is again a interface which is helping with all that orchestration of the backend. And if I also wanted to talk about, we have been deploying this on Ariba, which has been, and we are rolling out by country. So as of now, we have rolled it out across 40 countries around the world, right? And what that does is the moment you improve your front end process, the downstream processes are also much more efficient, right? So if you see our on-time payments is 95%, Our invoice processing, electronically processed, etc., is roughly around 91%. So these are all value which we have been able to create, right? Which is reduce the exceptions as we go through. So truly, these are only 3 examples, which I thought I'll just talk about IBM as a journey. I think our chairman has gone on record talking about how we are looking at just Gen AI-led disruption to improve our organization's experience and our posture in front of clients. Now, with that, I'll maybe open it up for discussion and your comments as we go through this. So what I really wanted to spend the next some time, 20-30 minutes, is to really look at how, as you have been experimenting in your own organizations, right? So what are the business value which you are looking to unlock, right, or deliver? And then what are the use cases which you are seeing, which is working in your companies? And if you don't want to share about your companies, which is fine, but in your spaces as practitioners, right, in your streams in which you operate, what are the use cases which you have? So would you want to, anybody would like to talk about that? We could do some exchange of ideas. Team? You would like to take it? Sure. Do you have a mic here somewhere? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Neeraj. I'm working with HDFC. So I'm part of a digital banking team, wherein I take care of the video KYC as the journey. Now, we do require the AI to come into the picture, wherein the AI does the check of the customer, is he the real customer or not, by matching it with the Aadhaar or the PAN card, his signature, his photo liveliness, EML. So we are seeing, with the advent of AI coming into the picture, many journeys have done the handshake. In a way, it has got better for the end customer. I remember earlier it used to take almost like 4 to 5 minutes to complete the entire video KYC. But now, in the matter of just 1.5 or maximum 2 minutes, it just goes through. So yes, with Gen AI, I'm sure with many other portion, things would definitely come, would be better.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that's a great use case. Have you built a ROI on this, or you're in the stage of experimentation in your journey there?
So we do have the vendor, an external vendor, who is taking care of the entire picture for us. Okay. And so right now, for one, I can just explain you one instance, pen tampering, which is way too unpredictable as of now. And the vendor is working really very hard to ensure such cases are being detected by the AI and it's been taken care of. So that part is still in the process. Otherwise, it's end-to-end perfect.
Awesome. So that's good to hear. Thank you very much for sharing that. Anybody else would like to share some use cases in which you're experimenting in your companies? Yes, please.
So I am Praveen Vange from Adani Electricity, and my role is evaluating the new technologies. So presently, we are experimenting on predicting a cable fault. Like we have a 10,000 kilometer cable network in Mumbai. So any type of failure of equipment. So presently we are working on that and evaluating some technologies and use cases with generative AI.
Okay, and again, is this in the realms of exploration, or is this in the realms of deployment? How do you see your
presently
journey?
It's exploration.
It's exploration right now. Okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Team, anybody else? I'm sure the tea wasn't that bad outside.
Hi, this is Shashank from Axis Bank. I look after testing, COE, and governance.
Okay.
So, what we are doing is on the generative AI, for the testing, using the automation, we are looking out for, or we are exploring the capabilities of Gen AI or AI tools for the automation of the various banking journey across verticals.
Okay.
So we are into initial phases. We have the external.
So you're
vendor.
in the stage of identifying the use cases to go after.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that's good to hear. Yes, please.
Hi,
Yeah,
my name is Anagha. I work with Kotak Bank. Uh, uh, we are looking at a very unique case. Again, it is in a very exploratory stage. Audit department, right, internal audit as well as concurrent audit departments, while and with the talent crunch, I think across all facets of the industry, we are always facing a challenge to get the right expertise. In terms of completing the audits, we are able to do that, but the challenge comes with writing the audit reports because not all my team, a lot of people are freshers and they are not trained in doing that. So it's at an exploratory stage to see whether any LLM models can help us to, come out with the audit reports written based on the factual data point observations.
That's a fantastic use case and one of my favorite ones just to share with you. Not on the audit side, but for a client we are currently experimenting on coming out with a CFO report, right? So at the end of the month, based on the financials, a quick summary if that can be extracted so that it can be shared with the business stakeholders for right budget versus actual variance, etc. So I mean a great use case. So again, this is at an exploratory stage is what you're saying. Okay, wonderful, great. Yes, please.
Yeah, hi, this is Ritesh from Flexi Loans. We are a fintech company into lending space. We have not used Gen AI, but we have used AI in every process what we are having. Like we, as a company, we get 4 million customers applying to us. We give few thousand loans. So there's a huge funnel prioritization issue what we are having. So what we have done is like which form to show to which customer, if customer is giving document, how to auto classify the document, how to auto verify the documents, which lead to call, lead prioritization model over there. In on the NPA side, like a lot of models around scoring the customers around it. On the automation productivity side, this is the topic. Like we have huge, like in lending, what happens is there's a credit officers, like CPAs, credit officers. How can we eliminate their roles of banking classification engine, right? Their transaction, how to classify those transactions, and then build credit models on top of it. So I guess we have divided entire company into almost 300 sub processes, and we're trying to apply AI in every part of it. Definitely, Gen AI, we are just exploring how to apply it because our use cases, because our number of people eliminate, like on customer service side, if we apply, we don't have too much of manpower still to have ROI out of it at that scale.
So you're looking at ROI more from a productivity standpoint.
From productivity, no. So our core business problem is how to, I mean, there are three problems what we are solving. One on the marketing side, B on the conversion side, how to efficiently convert, C on the NPA side, right? So here we are already applying a lot of AI related stuff, but on the NLP side or automatically like creating a front end for customers and all, we are just exploring that piece.
Okay, wonderful. That's a fantastic playground we are working on. I'm sure it's interesting. Anybody else would like to please share any interesting use cases which you're working on within your companies? But these are all great nuggets of experiences. I wanted to move to the next version. Typically, what are the enabling environment for such to work, right? I mean, first of all, you need money, I guess, of course. So the CFO needs to be convinced about that. You hired a vendor, so vendor will not do it for freebie. Of course, you need to pay him something. It requires cross-functional skills, team. If you're doing it with the audit department, they need to first agree that they're ready to be experimented on. Usually, not the easiest team to work with. So would you like to talk about what are the enabling environment you're creating? And Anand, would you like to join me here to facilitate this conversation? Anybody would like to share that? Anything you'd like to talk about that? Because this is all about innovation at scale, right? I mean, if you and challenge is if this experiment falters in a way, the company takes a backseat saying that this doesn't work, right? So any thoughts on how you're doing it in your space?
And what we really like to hear is, like in any technology, right? In any technology adoption, there are aspects of change in culture, change in process, and obviously these are not easy things to come by in any organization, right? So, what do you think needs to be enabled? I mean, we'd like to hear that, because technology is easy. It's possibly the easiest thing to implement.
By the way, I'd like to hear that, if technology is easy.
It is possibly. I mean, you can implement it, but getting the results out of it is important. So, I'd like to hear what kind of challenges you come across, and
I guess it is very difficult to convince people. Let's say I was giving this example of credit problem, right? That if you automate this stuff, what is the percentage accuracy? So right kind of experimentation framework is very important to implement in any organization, because otherwise if you just try to convince people, you'll never be able to convince a person that to adopt a new technology. But if you show data that, okay, let's say 10% of the flows are going through this, or there has to be back tests, parallel flows can be there, and if it can be demonstrated, the output given by AI related models were far superior than the manually what people have been doing. I guess that's the best way to do the same.
focus on the outcomes that people are going to achieve out of it, or personally going to gain out of it, right?
But
How
and
are
parallelly
you going to enhance their personal productivity or personal influence in whichever way? Yeah.
But parallelly creating a backtesting framework, right?
Sure.
So that it can be done in parallel and to
Fair
demonstrate
point.
that.
Anybody else? Any other environment? Any other thing?
Well, I come from a completely different background, like engineering.
Would you like to look at the
Lovely.
mic, which is next to you?
Hello. I come from the engineering background. This is all missing over there, to be very honest with you. Being very honest, because I've struggled a lot. Like, I've got a very simple requirement. Is just take an example for a bridge or a flyover, right? It has got 100 components in it. I'm willing to make every building block out of it, assign certain values to it, labor, effort, material. And if I put a building block in its place, I should be in a position to bill to the client saying, well, this is, I've done. Matching. And there are a lot of gaps over here. We're struggling to put data together. I've been, we're doing a project right now where I'm supposed to make those building blocks and show my management how much part we've really done. Like what we have a 3D model has to be shown in, say, white color, and the management see the done job in pink color, for example. Amount of effort that we are trying to put into it is so bad that just to show somebody on a 3D screen that, oh my God, I've done 24 components have been put into place. And all of that can be actually done in the background, and I've never seen, honestly, I have not been privy to any such information around this industry, brick and mortar industry, engineering industries, even scaling up, like just multiplying a plant size from X TPA to Y TPA, right? We can't do it. Even if I can do 60-70% of the job in this whole process, I save a hell lot of man hours, and I can bill. My client is willing to pay, but if I can do that of myself, I can save a lot of money, I can make more money, and can be more profitable, right? But all of this is missing. This industry is probably...
So is that a data problem or is that a technology problem?
Data, I said about...
or a discipline problem? I just want you to, if you can...
Data is the starting point. It's all strewn across, and in SR, I've got about half a petabyte of data. We don't know what to do with that. Like gathering it, putting it together, scanning it, and going into the metadata, running through reports. We are trying to do that, but no much luck.
Okay.
Even if I start a project, also getting right things, right rates, right modules, right place. Can I really automate to send my cement provider? I can sign up a contract with him, right? Say, if my inventory levels drop down to this level, he should not need to be told, right? He gets an alert, okay, I need X amount to be delivered by this date. We're really struggling to do that, and I have not seen all of this really happen much. People have deployed several systems, no luck really.
And you're right. And it, again, some of this technology, while the technology exists to do some of this, it really depends on the ROI, what can I get out of it? And you're right, I am a chemical engineer as well. So in that industry, in the it is sometimes difficult to justify ROI because, you know, things are easier done, and, you know, it's not multiple times that you need to do this. In the case of your ordering, you know, cement, I'm just taking an example. It's not that you got to do it multiple times and variables are going to keep changing, right? So I think the core is, you know, figuring out how to justify the ROI. Pick one piece and, you know, figure out what's the ROI. And I do agree with you that, you know, in the engineering industry, it's a little more difficult, especially in discrete manufacturing, like you're speaking.
Like in Fluor, where I was previously, we tried to do a larger project. We had the entire steel requirements together, and we blocked a plant to manufacture and sell it on design basis. But there also we had so many problems around. You know, like right information never reached other ends. I don't know. Like somehow there is something that needs to be fixed. You know, it's not really happening well. It needs to be,
Okay.
something is missing there. So.
I do have a point of view, but I'll come to that in a bit. But anybody else would like to add, team? Yeah, please.
Hi, good evening. This is Mahesh from United Overseas Bank. Please note that this is my own view, not my organization
Sure.
statement.
Thank you.
See, none of the conference or meeting getting over without the discussion of the AI. This is what the trend nowadays. Being from a BFSI industry, there is a quite good adoption of the technology.
Of course.
But few of the challenges which we are facing is a top-down approach. Senior management is very much aware what is going into the AI, but they don't know how to adopt into the organization. Why? Because the technology people rarely interact with the business unit. Generally, the problem statement should come from the business unit. Unless and until you don't know the problem statement of that business unit, you will not be able to implement the technology. So we need to interact with the business unit, understand their problem, how we can address your issues using various technology. Once you know, then adaptability. That is one of the important aspects which is lacking behind. People feel that they will going to lose their job if I start doing the automation of the process. Like, so that kind of fear is also generally coming into the staffs and the people in HR especially, which I have seen. So that adaptability is very important when you are actually taking any kind of call for automation of the things. And third is a TPRA. See, the trust. AI is purely based on the trust. There are thousands of vendors providing the solution. Unless and until you don't know who are actually trustedly giving you the solution and that really help you to automate the things with the proper TPRA, that is third-party risk assessment, which is creating a challenge. We are governed by the regulator. We are very tightly governed by the regulator. When we want to adopt any technology, we have to follow all the policy and procedure and all the compliance requirement. Fortunately enough, in last week only, I think government has also issued the guideline that if you want to adopt the AI, you first inform to us, and then what is the purpose of the AI. That is also government is now coming with these guidelines. And more onto the, when I'm saying this, all these problems are there, which, you know, generally pushing, not hardly pushing the AI, but it's a slowly adoption of the AI based on the case studies, how it is implementing other organization, and how it is helping you to you know, automate the things. That is the things.
Yeah, and it's so true, right? You know, I'll talk about the trust part first, and you brought that out. See, the trust is also about how do you trust the model that you have built, right? How do you trust the outcomes that it's throwing at you, right? So I think there's a learning phase that each organization needs to go through in how you're going to refine the model, how you're going to refine the data to make sure you have a certain level of trust. You will also come to a point that's, you know, in your journey, and each organization will have a different point where you will say, listen, this is what I'm willing to trust, and this is what is out of bounds. I'm not willing to go this path, right? And that is a journey. And I do agree with you that at the end of the day, I said this, and my colleague here had a point to make, but technology can do a lot. It's about what the business needs. It's about the ROI that you can generate. And that is an environment that has to be created, that technology cannot drive innovation. Business drives innovation, technology just delivers it. So especially in a project like, you know, adoption of AI and automation, it has to come from figuring out what does the business want. And you know, like she said, you know, maybe getting it done in audit is easy, but, you know, Audit is a complex space with its own guardrails. You just can't, when you were speaking, I was thinking, it's easy for AI to potentially generate a report, but is she going to sign on it? Is the internal auditor going to trust that report and say, I sign on it blindly? You will not, because the internal auditor will then say, listen, I need to have every comma, full stop validated. So that was what was running in my mind, saying, how are they going to trust this report? It's easy to generate it, but can you trust it? So you're so right that it has to come from a ability to trust the model, and that will come over time. It's not going to happen tomorrow. You're going to go through the journey. You've got to go through the journey.
Wonderful. I think that's a lot of nuggets of knowledge. Thank you very much for sharing that. Any other point of view on that? Otherwise, anybody would like to comment on the third thing which we want to talk about? What is it that you would, what will help in accelerating the journey? I mean, I'm assuming all of you, while there are some challenges, we get it, but I'm sure there will be solutions around the corner, because the way the technology, the conversations we are having now versus the conversation we used to have 2 years back itself, there's a significant change. I'm sure all of us will agree that, right? So the conversations which we will have 2 years later is even more difficult to predict, right? In terms of what are we going into. So it's only going to accelerate, correct? But any thoughts on what will help it to accelerate for you, right? Is it the ROI? Is it the change management? A better appreciation at the top level, to your point?
Or for that matter, the people and the culture. You rightly said that. So, and I think it is for, all of these will play a role. So we'd like to hear from you. What do you think is important? And you spoke of top down. I'm not too sure that's the case for the others, but yeah, love to hear.
I think picking up from your point of people and culture, right? We've been talking a lot about ROI, and we've been talking a lot about trust, but for an AI, or for that matter any tech project, to be really successful in any organization, I think it is important for the bottoms up, the people, the feet on the street, the people at the lowest level, to not feel threatened but feel empowered.
Correct. That's the most important.
By what is coming. So I think clear, sharp and repetitive communication and articulation of how it is going to empower that junior level employee will accelerate the journey, not just for AI but for any tech implementation.
And maybe even more so for AI, because the other journeys, if you take an SAP ERP implementation, or things like that, they're just about, they're not about replacing people or adding to what they're doing. AI is potentially going down that path, so even more so.
But what I like about this entire conversation, nobody said tech is a problem. To your point, right? So tech is not the problem, right? It's a people problem, right?
It's people. It's
openness.
Of other things.
It's awareness, openness.
The ability
right.
to trust, and it's also, just staying at it. Some of these are not difficult. They're not easy changes to make. When we implemented Ask HR, it's not an easy. Even today, we find it difficult. It's not an easy change to say, hey, there's nobody in HR to help you. It is a website. You got to go type an answer and hope that it's right. And it's difficult to trust, but it is what it is. And you've got to absorb that change. Tech will enable. There is no problem. It is never the limiting criteria.
Yeah, the only part which I'll bring on the tech side, which you talked about, I think, the focus only on the tech side, right? I think the only thing which is happening on the Gen AI and AI side, I mean, the point you made about trust factor, I think is very important, because, AI so far has been AI for people at large. What we're now beginning to see is AI for business, which requires far more explainability and the trust and the fact that if, let's say, a fintech company has deployed an algorithm and it rejects a credit or application, you need to be able to justify that why did I reject it. It can't be a black hole throwing something out, right? And it has to be predictable. If the same factors happen, then it continues to work the same way. And that, in my opinion, is a tech element. which is what increasingly, I think we as IBM are very focused on, which is AI for enterprise, and ensure that we use your data to give outputs for your company, right? It's not being modeled or trained on open space databases. So that's the only thing which I think is the new element, which is still going to scale and help further adoption, to your point, and empower the people.
And it brings a context to your enterprise.
Exactly.
I mean, the way we look at it is your data is your data, you're not going to share it. And therefore, the context that you build out of that data is relevant only to you and mostly to you, right? So it is important that as you go down the journey, as you make the other changes, it is important that you embed in your thinking, in your organization, that thought that, listen, how am I going to use, how are we going to use our data to give us contextual results, which are contextual to us and our customers and our users. And in this space, how do I make sure that we're not infringing on somebody else's IP, on somebody else's data? How do we make sure that entire environment or the entire output that's coming out, has a sense of responsibility to it? That's most important in this journey, because this is a big change. It is about, the AI models that you will use will be influenced by data outside, because they are going to be trained on a larger data set. They will be influenced, but how do you make sure that influence doesn't creep into what you're doing? And that influence, that's only the learning part that comes in, and not really the data. So that segregation is something that, we'll all have to find our own ways. Each organization will find its own ways to do, and embed, right? And that's when you get a system, an AI environment that is truly yours, which is not plucked out of the internet, if I may put it that way.
Right. Any comments, team? Otherwise, you wanted to say something, please.
I think I agree with all your statements. See, AI is not a new. It has been there since 2010. Why it pick up? When the chat GPT has come and when common man start using it, they realize the power of AI. Google was using AI since long time, but they never bring it to the common man because they know the power of the AI. But the power of AI actually come into this chat GPT. See, that is the point when it start accelerating the use case into the industry. Okay, so when we required to accelerate the journey of this AI in your day-to-day BOI activity or your organization, we need also think how we can have the responsible AI. That is what your agenda. Responsible AI, when we are saying responsible, that what your technology are implementing, it should ensure that the organization interest is protected. You have the security controls ecosystem around that solution, and which will protect your data as well. At the same time, it will help to modernize your day-to-day BO operation in a sophisticated manner, so that it will solve your problem statement. That is where the journey will start. Yeah, it will take time. It is still, it is not fully mature. There are a lot of governance required to be in place, but it will take time. And without generation AI, none of the organization will go away. They have to adopt one fine day. That is a fact.
I believe they're already. I believe they're already adopting. I think in this room itself, you saw a lot of companies beginning to do that. The point which I would say is it's going to accelerate and scale up faster with some of these test cases coming through. If audit, coming back on what Anaga said, if audit team agrees that this is a great summary of my audit report, I mean, trust me, any company, any department will agree to Gen AI.
And by the way, let me tell you, I'm actually in discussion with 2 banks who are exploring with how AI can help internal audit. And to your point, I just want to add another thing. Because you have to be responsible, you've got to make sure the data that the AI model is trained on is also safe.
Yeah.
Right? It starts from there. If that data is not safe, you cannot ensure that when it's brought into your environment, the learning that's applying to or the inferencing that is doing in your environment is safe. So as you go through a journey, that's another thing you want to keep in mind. Saying, hey, how was the model trained? What data was it trained on? Is that data safe? Is that data being sanitized, right? So.
Okay, just in interest of time, good conversation. Thank you, everybody. I'll just move forward and talk about, these are our library of use cases, and we are adding almost every day. This is again not a comprehensive list, but some of the ones which we see significant traction and conversation as we engage with clients. As I did say, a lot of these are based on IBM being a client zero. So we use ourselves as a guinea pig before we come to you. What I'll do is I'll request Michael to show us one specific use case in action for you to see. Michael?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so I have, 10 minutes and I'm standing between you and the dinner. But so I like to start on the point which Anaga made, right? How do I actually get my people on the feet on street or the feet on floor, as we call it, them onboarded on this journey, right? And that's what I will like to start with, because what we are trying to drive here is how do I improve the employee productivity in my organization as such, right? So just going by, is this changing? Okay. Yeah. Cool. So, so for me as an employee, right, how do I spend my day in life in the organization? I started in a smiling way, but I do have to do a lot of stuff which is manual in nature, right? It could be dealing with paper, dealing with multiple applications. So if I am a very good accountant, my passion will be accounting, right? But what I generally do is end up not just accounting, but learn the underlying software which I have to use, right? So I just don't have to know accounts, I need to know SAP also. Or if I am a very good salesman, I just don't need to know how to do sales, but maybe I should also know how to operate Salesforce in that case, right? So there are a lot of applications which you are connecting and interacting to, right? Just as a normal HR person, if I am hiring somebody or just doing a talent acquisition, for example, right? I interact with so many applications. First, maybe if I'm using Workday or SAP, I'm interacting with them to create the job requisition. Then probably I'll have to go into LinkedIn and post it there, or maybe into some job sites and post it there. Download resumes from maybe Naukri, right? Then evaluate them, right? Even to create a JD, I type them, right? But now, since we are talking about GenAI and GenAI can do this stuff for me, how do I give this capability for a user to use it, right? How they can impose or invoke a job AI. If I am having a contract, can I give it to GenAI and tell me, ask it to give me a summary, right? How do I give that capability to them, right? The third thing is about processes, because when I join any new organization, I need to understand how the processes are different in terms of working, right? And wherever I encounter any exception, that's where I have to go and ask people how to go out, right? And that's what is basically, making us talking to multiple applications, doing one manual work. Even though we have gone and automated a lot of stuff, those are automated within that application, right? So Salesforce processes are automated, my ERP processes are automated, but I have to still deal with both of them, right? So we are talking about smart TVs. I can talk to my remote and ask what movie to play, right? But when it comes to business application, as an employee, I still need to remember T code in SAP or transaction code to do a payment transfer in Finacle. So that's like how fast I can get people onboarded as such, right? And what I'm going to demonstrate is something called as Watch and Orchestrate. And the way we look at it is it's an unified UI for you to talk to any business applications, right? So I, as an employee or your customers, need to get any information. Maybe I want to do an invoice in SAP. Can I talk to an assistant and get it done for me? So it's like creating a digital assistant for me or for all my employees to do my day-to-day work, right? So we'll take a use case of an HR in this case, and I'll just run through a demo of this. So we will look at two scenarios here, and just to mirror my display. Yeah. Okay. So we'll look at two scenarios or two personas, right? One as an employee or a user, how I can leverage this Watson Orchestrate platform, which is totally using an AI capabilities to interact in a natural language processing way with the employees and the underlying background application. And then as a builder, how I can enable my people to actually use this system, right? So first use case, if I'm, let's say, looking at talent acquisition as a as a process, right? So what I can do actually is go and basically, okay, let me go to the start screen here. This work. Right, and chat or start a chat to do what I want to do today, right? So if I am a talent acquisition and let's say I want to create a new job requisition in my underlying application, right? Which in this case, if I am using SAP SuccessFactors, how I create a job into underlying SAP SuccessFactors. And let's say then I want to create some qualifying or questions for qualifying those relevant candidates. How I can do that, right? And then review that as a candidate, right? So this is a simple flow if an end user is trying to execute it, right? So when I come to Watson Orchestrate, this is a little slow in that way. While it loads. Okay, so let me just switch back. It's running a little slow, but no worries. Let me just run a. Okay, let's just look at here. So let's see how Watson Orchestrate basically works, right? This is basically from an orchestrate perspective. I'm just creating a flow, which is basically, it's leveraging the underlying success factor, and then I'm creating a job requisition, and then creating and reviewing the screening question for that job addition, which will be available there. So I have SAP SuccessFactors talent acquisition, which I search, and in this case, I want to create a new job requisition, right? So I just add that skill. So I'm, as a user, I can just connect it once whenever I'm setting this up, right, with my user ID and password to connect to that underlying application, right? And then add it as a skill which will be available for me to use, right? And this skills could be anything, right? Sending an email or posting it LinkedIn, right? All those skills I can just add here. Right? So once I add this, it gets added to my available skill. And as I was saying in the flow, the next thing I'm doing is to create an screening questions, right? So I am just adding that. I'm just taking this as basic skills, and then I can also show you if I'm infusing or getting this automatically generated to a GenAI, I can use that as a skill into that flow, right? So I'm again connected, added that skill, which is the second one, and the third one for a short demo will put the review skill as the third activity which I will be doing, right? So once this is added, this is the third skill from a review perspective. So again, I'm just connecting it. I'm making sure that it is connecting to that underlying applications, right? So, and that gets added to me. So I can use those skills now, right? And then once I've done that, I am just creating a flow, right? That how those skills will be moving up. Yeah. So I'm just creating a flow, as the skills, if they are connected to each other, right? So just give it a name and a description so that I can identify it, right? So in this case, I'm just creating a job requisition, and for that, I'm doing 3 different activities, which individually are called skills here, right? So after adding this, the next thing which I will do is basically add those specific activities or skills which we have just added, right? So when I click on this plus sign, I can just search for that activity. In this case, create the screening questions, right? So I've added that. And then, the next activity, I can just add it before or after this, right? So after I add this into the flow, right, I can then, the next one could be after this or before this, I can just add those skills, right? So the one before this, I have to create a job requisition into underlying SAP success factor. So we just searched that and added that. And similarly, what I will do after this is go and add the skill for creating or reviewing that questions after that, the screening question after that was created, right? So what I'm actually doing here is when I give the skill to the end user, he doesn't have to log in and go separately into SAP, right? Now, all the skill fortunately are here touching SAP only, but he doesn't have to understand the T codes and everything there. But even after this, if he has to post it into LinkedIn, that's available as a skill. Send interview mail, schedule an interview, right? All those things I can do through a prompt for the user, right? So once I've added the skills flows, I can just, because these are multiple skills talking to each other, this is a mapping which I do, right? And again, the end user doesn't do it. This is a skill flow which I create as a builder and then give it to the end user as such, right? So this is just mapping, like once the skill is created into SAP, for that same reference number is what is going as an input to the next skill, right? And then similarly, once I create an screening question, the created question ID will be going as a review to the next skill, right? So that's the way I can do the mapping for all the skills which gets added. Yeah. So this is the second output which came in, and that's what I am adding here, right? Now once the entire skill is created, I could just go ahead and save this. And the next thing which I can do is how do I give it to the user so that they can interact with it, right? So I can just go ahead and enhance the flow as what kind of phrases in which I can call this as the skills, right? And this the entire flow can be embedded to the assistant, as we call it, where you can do a dialogue, and invoke the skills itself, right? So once we have added this, I can just add certain common phrases through which users will be able to access this as such, right? So the phrases is one, and then secondly, if you see the next step here, the next best skill after this, he can do two or three different things, right? So the system will also suggest it what he can do next after that, right? So it's guiding them through the process as well, right? So if you are stuck in an exception, the system will tell you what to do as such, right? So once this is created and that's added to the user or a team as a skill which they can use, for them now it is just interacting with that through a normal conversation as such, right? So I can invoke that skill, or I can just type there, like create JD or JR or job rack or whatever phrases, and this automatically open up the form which is part of that skill, right? So they can enter this basic information in that skill. Yeah. So we are hiring a production manager for a country and that plant, right? And then it has updated and created that job requisition, and it has written me that number from SAP, right? So if I want to directly go and review it, also gives me a link, right? But however, it has already captured that number into the next skill which I'm executing, is basically creating that screening question here, right? And once I save that screening question, it will automatically take me to the next skill, which is basically reviewing the screening question, right? Now, yeah, for this demo sec, we're just taking three steps, but actual acquisition, right from screening the candidates, selecting, sending emails to them if they respond, scheduling interviews, right, scheduling their calendars, all this can be done from this one interface itself, right? So I don't have to actually go into separate applications to basically do this stuff, right? So I don't have to do a swivel chair. This system will guide me of what I have to do, and I'm interacting to them, making my application more smarter, right? So that's what Watson orchestrated. Just go back to my demo. Okay. Yeah, this is loaded. I just need to mirror. Right. So this is kind of the interface. And again, when we were discussing about how do I show that there is an ROI there, right, or how much time I actually save for the employees, right, in terms of the logging in, logging down, moving from applications to applications or exceptions, right? So the skills which are executed, which are the most executed skills or used skills, right? So within this, let's say if it is a foreign loan processing officer who needs to evaluate a contract of a housing loan, right? And if there is a Gen AI model, I just can upload and say, give me the summary, right? So all those things could be exposed to the user in adopting different applications as such, right? Definitely. So adding skills how do I actually build these skills, right? So there are two ways in which we can allow. So if you already have some workflows, automations, which are already there, right? So and as I was saying, that each application will have their own workflows, right? Rather than going there, I can just expose them as a point here, right? So I can just, let's say if I want to know whenever there is a change into a lead into my Salesforce, which has changed a stage, I need to be intimated here. That will automatically happen here. Yeah. Just will, as the last thing, show you how I can import those skills. So basically, it exposes something called as open APIs, right? So if there is an open API available, that can be exposed as a skill and imported here. Or we can also use a robotic process automation if that underlying application doesn't have any APIs, right? So we create a bot and expose that bot as an API so that it is available to the end user. So network is a little slow here, but let me try. Okay. I'll let it load and come back here. Right, so the skills could be anything which we can see here, right? It is creating a job requisition, sending out an offer, right? And maybe promote an employee or change a manager of an employee. So I can interact with this, and this will take care of executing into the underlying application as such. Yeah. Right. So this is what we are actually discussing about engaging, keeping these employees engaged, right? Rather than they focusing on their core job or core capabilities without bothering about the underlying applications or functions I need to use within that applications or the processes, because the system then guides them how to move ahead whenever there are exceptions. Yeah. So that was the quick demo. I'm happy to take any questions, any doubts which you want to discuss.
I hope this was interesting, exciting. Any comments, anything for you to see? I hope it was not too technical, but the idea was to make it live for you in terms of our journey in IBM and how we continue to be very excited and bullish about this phase of transformation. Any last comments? Otherwise, team, thank you very much for making time. Really appreciate you investing your time with us, and hopefully this was something you could take back with. And then please join us for dinner. Thank you.